So, as you may have heard at the beginning, there's been some focus on this event from the ADL. They object to Gilad's opinions, they object to him being in Houston, they object to a lot of his very existence in some ways.
Let me just mention that I also object to my opinions. In most cases, find it's really impossible to agree with me.
Well, we're not here to agree.
Exactly. This is why this is how I manage.
Right. So one of the things that I want to draw people's attention to is that to develop your own opinions, you first have to know what you disagree with, in a way. And to define yourself, you have to be questioned. And Gilad has gone through this journey of awakening that I guess happened in the mid-'80s, and has taken us to where we are today. And you can hear some of it in the music. So I guess my first question for you is, explain a little bit for people who are not familiar with your background and your history personally, how that's influenced the music that you produce, and where you see it maybe influencing your music in the future as the direction changes. A very non-political question, but slightly political.
As some of you do realize, I was born in Israel, and I had a very happy childhood. And I guess that the Palestinian people in the room, you know how beautiful is the place. And I wouldn't like to talk too much about it, but I was very patriotic as a kid. My parents were patriotic, my grandparents were patriotic. And being patriotic is a lot of fun. I was even willing to die. But then something slightly too embarrassing thing happened. First, I had my first girlfriend. I was 17. I became more and more attached to my body, especially to those bits that stick out. And as I became more and more attached, my willingness to die decreased.
Or at least your willingness to lose the start of it.
Exactly, there's organs, but I didn't know how to integrate it into a kind of a self-protective mode. And another interesting thing happened. I heard Charlie Parker, the jazz saxophonist, and it seemed to me much more heroic to play bebop than dying in Lebanon. But I still had to join the Israeli army. I joined in 81, and in 82, there was a pretty horrible war that changed my life. I've been in Lebanon. I saw a lot of refugee camps. I started for the first time to realize that those refugees were from a place that I assumed was mine. And I started to ask more and more questions. When I was 30 years old, I realized that it was 92, 93, Oslo Accord, do you remember it? Another meaningless event that led nowhere, and I realized that there was no willingness amongst my people, whom I loved at the time, to go to peace. I realized that in Hebrew we don't have a word for peace. We have shalom, and shalom doesn't mean peace. Shalom means security for the Jews. And I left to Britain, and I was very happy in Britain for many years. But then in 2000, 2001, second Intifada, I for the first time encountered the level of brutality of my people on the screen, and I was extremely disturbed. and I came with a brilliant idea. I think that it was one of my most clever ideas. I thought that with music, I could introduce peace. What I did, I formed the Orient House ensemble. Do you remember the Orient House? There used to be an Orient House in East Jerusalem. Yeah. Not much is left out of it. When people talk about the Orient House, they think that it's about my band. No, but it was a Palestinian headquarters that was harassed on daily basis. I formed the Orient House ensemble. People told me, listen, you cannot start a jazz band with the name of a Chinese restaurant. But I got away with it. I get away with a lot because I'm cute. Don't you think so?
Well, your book would say you get away with a lot because you're Jewish.
This is the tragic aspect of my cuteness. Yeah. This is why, by the way, why I cease to be a Jew, because I don't want to use it as an excuse. Anyway, my idea was to take the most tragic Israeli tunes. You know, we have a lot of Jewish music about the Holocaust. Basically, most of our music is kind of tragic, endless, and to Palestinize it. And by then I was already a very established saxophonist and I could play more or less in any style. And I thought that playing Arabic music would be easy peasy. Because it sounded to me like, no offense, yeah, I'm telling you how I felt. It sounded to me like really simplistic, one chord or drone. And I started to play the music, and it sounded like shut. It didn't sound right at all. And I started to understand that I don't understand. That there is some serious depth in this music that I was never willing to listen to. I grew up in Palestine. I heard Kulthum all my life, but I didn't listen to it. I heard it, I didn't listen to it. Because I was saturated with, it's not nice to say, but Israeli supremacy or Jewish supremacy or whatever you want to call it. I wasn't attentive enough to understand the beauty in it or to grasp any of it. Now it's amazing because by then I could play Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Mozart, Bach. I could play really tango, every style, and I couldn't play the music of my homeland. Quite shocking. It was shocking for me. And this is when I realized I don't know where I put my saxophone.
On the piano.
Yeah. Because I'm still genetically Jew, I thought, did I manage to sell it already? It's really fun. When I know that the ADL is in the room, it brings the Woody Allen in me.
Protect your daughters.
Anyway, I really want to play Arabic music. I don't know how to do it, and I kind of developed a trick. I would try to emulate the sound of the muezzin, of the mosque. And when I did that, I kind of somehow managed to hear the quarter tones and the sparseness of the sound, and I somehow found all those kind of microtonality in the saxophone. Instead of And I then gathered that it was very important for me. I realized that we have a problem in Western education, Western philosophy. Basically, I started to play music because I loved the sound of it. Now, most people now, if they want to learn music, they put them in front of manuscripts. They teach them that C is that, and D is that, and this is how long it is, and so on and so on. And I realized that there is a kind of a level of detachment between the sound. We are attuned to the eye, to the primacy of the eye. And this is something that we have in Western society. We are living in a technological, empirical society. Science is immersed with the importance of the eye. And I realized that in the East, not just in Palestine, in the Orient, in the Far East, it's actually about the primacy of the ear. I started to listen to the music, I tried to learn to sing it, and then I started to play it. And philosophically, I realized that even ethically, this is the most important lesson. At the time, we had Colin Powell calling us to invade Iraq because he had some, if you remember, he presented this in the United Nations, these false documents of weapons of mass destruction and so on. This was the primacy of the eye. So, like, if you have documents, go kill them. And I realized that ethical thinking, and I realized through the saxophone, is something that happens when you close your eyes. When you ask yourself, is it right or is it wrong? Regardless of evidence. So this is more or less kind of the first 30 years of my life, and this is the role of my saxophone in the emergence of my philosophical thought.
And is it fair to say then that that discovery led to a transformation of questioning a whole bunch of other things, including identity and nationality?
I then, after the second Intifada, I became very, very critical of Israel and Zionism. But then I realized that it wasn't just Zionism. There was a very, very big Jewish lobby that was supporting Israel. And I realized then that it wasn't actually Zionism at all. Are there any Israelis in the room? No. Because usually if there are Israelis, 2 days ago I had a few Israelis and they confirmed that what I was saying was right. I wasn't raised as a Zionist. We don't have Zionist parties in Israel. We used to have in the 50s. Now we have Israel Betenu, Israel Our Own, Abait HaYehudi, the Jewish Own. We have Israeli patriotics, Jewish patriotics. We don't have Zionists. I wasn't a Zionist. Zionism was the promise to bring the Jews to their homeland, i.e. Palestine, and then to transform them into civilized human beings, i.e. Israelis. But I was the post-revolutionary product. We were not Zionists. Israelis are not Zionists. And I realized that when you say anti-Zionism, it's nonsense. Israel is the Jewish state.